This is Greg Baker, STEM and General Technology teacher from Learn9 Waukegan, and this is a tutorial about Zoom. I'm sure most of you have heard of and most likely use Zoom at this point, so let's jump right in. To start, I'm going to go to zoom.us. That's going to take me to the main Zoom website. I'm going to click Sign In, and then I'm going to sign in with Google. This is going to sign me in with my school account. Right now, Zoom has unlimited time for education accounts. So if you sign in with your school account, you have unlimited time. Otherwise, if you log in with a personal account and you just have the basic free Zoom, you're limited to 40 minutes a meeting. Once I log in, it's going to take me to my main meetings page. But before I go there, I'm going to go up to the profile page. This is where you can change your Zoom image. You can update some of your personal information. You can also go down and you can connect a calendar. So I'm going to connect my Google Calendar to Zoom. That way, when I schedule something through Zoom, it's going to go onto my calendar, and I can also create calendar events that will then attach themselves to Zoom. After I've updated everything that I want in my profile, I'm going to go to meetings. I can see if I have any meetings scheduled for the future. Right now, I don't have any. I can look at my previous meetings. So I can see that on June 12th, I had a meeting. I can look if I have any personal meeting rooms that I want to set up, or if I have a meeting template, I can set that up as well. So let's go back to upcoming meetings, and I'm going to schedule a new meeting. I can change the topic of my meeting. So if I want this to be welcome back to school, I can do that. I can put a description. And then I'm going to choose my date and times. So I can type in here, or I can click the little calendar button, and then I can scroll through and I can say I want to schedule this meeting for Tuesday the 21st of July at 2:30 p.m. I can schedule the duration of my meeting. This doesn't necessarily say that at 1 hour it's going to kick you out, but it gives your guests an idea of what to expect for the meeting. So this is just going to be a 1 hour meeting. I can choose my time zone if it's not the correct time zone. I can set this up as a recurring meeting. So if I'm going to have a Zoom meeting every Tuesday at 2:30 p.m., I can click recurring meeting, and then I can have it do daily, weekly, monthly, so on. You can have Zoom automatically generate your meeting ID, or if you want to use your personal meeting ID, you can do that. It's really up to you. You can set your meeting password. Underneath there, you have some video options. So you can turn on video for the host, which is you, or for your participants. Otherwise, it will default to no video, and they have to activate the video when they join. I'm going to leave those off just for now. Underneath that, you have some meeting options. You can allow your participants to join the meeting before the host, but if you're going to be using this with your students, I would recommend that you don't enable join before host so that you can keep an eye on everything that's happening in your meeting. You have the option to mute participants upon entry. So if you're doing a training, or if you're in the middle of explaining something and you want everyone to be muted as soon as they join, you can click that, and then you don't have to worry about someone interrupting when they join the meeting late. You can enable your waiting room. and you can choose to record your meeting automatically on your computer. If you check this, it's going to automatically record every time, but you don't have to. If you want to record, there's a way to turn that on when you join the meeting. I'm going to save, and now my meeting is scheduled. I now have the option to add it to my Google Calendar, so I can click Google Calendar, choose the account, and it's going to add that calendar event onto my calendar. So here's my Google Calendar, and I can see that it's here. I have all my details. If I save, it will go onto my calendar for July 21st. There it is. I can scroll down and I can double check my information. If I need to, I can click edit this meeting and go back in and change any of those settings. Or if I'm ready to start the meeting, I can click start this meeting and start it immediately. Now let's go back to meetings. And now you can see that my scheduled meeting is here. So I can either start the meeting or I can delete it. If I click on it, I can go in and make some edits if I need to. So that's how you schedule a meeting. There are a couple other things on the left here that we'll look at real quick before we jump in and see what a meeting looks like. We're going to skip webinars because that's not something that we have access to right now. But if we click on recordings, I can see if I have any recorded Zoom meetings. So for our May 1st professional development meeting, I recorded that meeting because we had a lot of training going on for a bunch of different programs. And since I was running that Zoom, I saved it, and then I was able to go back and share the meeting sessions with anyone who wasn't able to join us for the meeting so that they could still go back and see everything that happened. Underneath recordings, you have your settings. There are a lot of settings in Zoom that you can look through. There are security settings that are mostly set already. These are set by Learn. You have the option to turn on or off your waiting room. I typically keep the waiting room on so I can see when new people join, and then I can admit them as we come. That just gives me an extra bit of security so I know who's coming into my meetings. You have some scheduling options as well. And there are just a few that I'm going to scroll down to that I wanted you to see. You have the option to turn on or off chat. You have the option to turn on or off screen sharing. You can also set it up so that only the host can share, or if you want all participants to be able to share, you can do that too. And then you have a couple of options underneath. So either all participants can start sharing when someone else is sharing, or only the host can interrupt when someone else is sharing. As you scroll down, you can see there are a bunch of other in-meeting options here. So you can turn on a whiteboard feature, you can turn on annotations, you can turn on the remote control, and there are a bunch of other things that you can scroll through yourself. As we get into the more advanced in-meeting settings, one cool thing that you can do in Zoom is a breakout room. So you can turn on breakout rooms, and then I'll show you when we get into Zoom how to assign someone to a breakout room so that they have their own little Zoom meeting going on while you're having your main meeting. You can turn on closed captions, you can save those captions, you can allow for virtual backgrounds. And this is one that I've found helpful, especially when I'm trying to do it with students when they're at home. You can click show a join from your browser link, which means that if for some reason the student can't download the Zoom app, they have the ability to join from their browser, and they'll view your meeting online and they can still participate. The only difference is there are a couple of features that you can't access from the web version that you can using the app. So when we go into Zoom and take a look at that, I'm going to have my teacher Zoom open, and then I'll log in as a student from a browser so that you can see the difference. You have your email notification settings. I like to have this one on because sometimes I'll set up a Zoom meeting and a student won't necessarily read the time. They'll just see that, oh, Mr. Baker invited me to a Zoom meeting. They click it, and then they're sitting there for 10 minutes waiting for me to join the meeting, even though it's scheduled for a different day. This will send me an email saying, so and so student has joined your meeting and is waiting for you. In that case, I'll just go in and I'll email that student and say, hey, you got the date and the time wrong, double check the invite, and so on. You can also set up email notifications to let people know if you cancel a meeting, which I think is important for your communication too. Underneath that, you've got some other options that you can play around with. These automatically save every time you update, so you don't have to worry about clicking a save button anywhere. You do have some recording options as well, and that's something that you can look through and set up on your own. All right, let's start a meeting. So I have a meeting scheduled, but I want to host a meeting that's going to start right now. So I'm going to click host a meeting with video on, and that's going to ask me to launch my app. If you don't have the app, it's going to prompt you to download that app. But since I have it, I'm going to open Zoom. It's going to connect me. You can see it turned on my camera. I'm going to click join with computer audio. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and mute myself on here just for right now. I'm going to move me over a little bit, and I'm going to do a little split screen action here so that I can add my student account right next to me. All right, so I have my Zoom account open here, and on the right hand side I now have my student account open and ready to go. So I'm going to come down and we're going to look through the tools. We're just going to go left to right. So your first tool is your audio, so you can mute and unmute. You also have a few other options here if you wanted to change the microphone that you're using or change a speaker if you have an external speaker, things like that. Next to that is your video settings. This is where you can stop your video or start your video. So if you don't want your face to be shown right away, you can stop video. And this is that picture I had set up in my profile. You also have a few other options here where you can change your camera if you're using an external camera, or if you're using the app, you can choose a virtual background. So if you click choose virtual background, you can upload different images here, and then all you have to do is click and it will change your background. We'll do that one. That's fun. Next to that is your security options. This is definitely something you want to look through. If you're having a meeting, you can lock your meeting as soon as all your participants are there so that no one else can join. You can enable or disable the waiting room. You can allow your participants to share your screen or not share their screen. You can turn on or off the chat, and you can give your participants the ability to give themselves a name. Next to that is participants. So if I click participants, it's going to show me everybody who's in the meeting. Right now it's just me, but I'm going to invite someone to this meeting. So I'm going to click invite by email, and we're going to send this to my student account. Click send. and my message was sent. So now over in my student account here, I'm going to go to Gmail. And my student now should have an email from Zoom inviting them to my meeting. So here it is. Please join Zoom meeting in progress. So I'm going to open that and I'm going to click the link. So you can see that it's prompting me to open the app. However, I'm a student. I can't use the app because I can't download it on my Chromebook for some reason. Oh no, what do I do? Click cancel, and then I'm going to click join from your browser. This is going to send me into Zoom, and all I have to do is put my name, check that I'm not a robot, and then I can join the meeting. So my student is now in the waiting room. When I come back over here, I can click participants, and now I'm going to see that I have one person waiting in the waiting room. I can leave them there as long as I want. I can remove them if it's somebody I don't know, or I can click admit. Once I click admit, it's going to allow that other participant into the meeting. So now on the left-hand side, I can see myself really tiny up here, and I can see my participant. And on the right, my student can see me, and on the bottom is them. I'm going to click Gallery View so that it evens things out a little bit. And then on the student side, I'm going to click Join Audio so that my student can speak to me. But I'm going to mute him right now. Allow it to use the microphone and mute. Otherwise, I'm going to get an echo. And then I'm going to click Start Video. Now you can kind of see the difference. First of all, there's a little delay because the web version here has a little delay to what's going on here on the app. Also, if you notice the layouts on the app, I can use that grid view, but on the web version, it just puts my student in this little box. Okay. The web version also doesn't give you the option to do the virtual backgrounds, which is kind of stinks a little bit, but that's okay. So I'm going to come back over here, and I'm actually going to stop video for right now just so I don't have so much confusion going on my screen. And then we're going to see what other options you have. In the participants, you have the option to unmute or mute your participants. You can also make them a co-host or a host. So if you are having a meeting and you have some spotty internet going on at your house, then you might want to make someone a co-host just in case you get bumped out. That way it doesn't end the Zoom meeting. I'm going to close this and we're going to go back. The next thing I want to show you is the share screen. So if I click share, I have some options. I can share my whole desktop, which is everything that's going on my screen. I can click here and share individual windows that I have open. I can click here and I can open up a whiteboard and I can draw on that whiteboard. Or if you have a phone plugged in, you can share from your phone. So I'm going to show you what it looks like if I share one of my windows. So there we go. I can see what's going on here. My student can now see what I'm presenting on my window. There are a whole bunch of sharing options that you can look at. You can pause sharing, you can annotate, you can turn on remote control, which will allow you to give control to another student so they can go on and click or type. And then there are some other options that you can play around with. And as I'm sharing, I'm talking through my presentation. My students over here can watch what I'm doing. To stop sharing, you just have to click Stop Share. And it's going to take you back to where you started. Next to share screen, you have some reactions. So you can do a clap or you can do a thumbs up. And that just puts a little icon up there for you. Under More, this is where you can open the chat. Now, in the chat window, you can send a message to everyone, or if you click there, you can send individual messages to people, or individuals can send a message to you. So if you have a student who's having an issue, they can send you a private chat. Or if they have a question, they can send you a chat instead of asking the entire group. That way you don't have to have people interrupting, talking over your presentation. They can put it in the chat, and the chat can be saved at the end. So if you're having your students participate with chat questions, or if you're posting questions during your presentation and you want them to answer in the chat, you can save that chat and go back and look at it later. You also have the ability now to add files in the chat. So if you want to upload a document for your students to open, you can add that file there, and then they can click on it in the chat and it'll open up on their screen. Underneath chat, this is where you can turn on or off your recording. A few things that you need to be careful of. One, if you're doing a meeting with students and you're going to record, you need to, first of all, make sure that they're aware of it and that their parents are aware that they're recording it. You may even want to get written permission beforehand, so just so you're covered, because you are online with students and you can see them face to face and you're saving this onto your device. So just be cautious if you're going to record a meeting that way. Underneath record are your breakout rooms. So if I click breakout rooms, I can assign automatically, or I can manually assign my participants to a breakout room. I'm going to do it manually because I want some control over who's going into what room. So I'm going to create my breakout rooms. It's going to automatically give me breakout room number 1. If you want, you can add more rooms just by clicking add a room. You have the ability to rename them. So if you want to call this group 1, you can rename it. And then when you're ready, you click assign. You choose the participants that you want to go into that room, and then you open the rooms. So you're going to see now on my student side, it's going to say the host is inviting you to join a breakout room. So my student is going to join that room. It takes a few seconds for it to transfer over. And now on the left, you'll see on my teacher side, it's just me. And my student is now over here in this room, unfortunately by himself because there's no one else there. But if there were other participants, they would see each other in those rooms. So you could actually do group projects, have them work in their room, and then when you're ready for them to come back, you can close the rooms. You also have the ability to broadcast a message. So you can do something like 2-minute warning and broadcast that, and then all of your participants in the rooms will see that. Then when you're ready to close, you'll click close all rooms, and the students will be able to click return to main session, and that's going to bring them back to where we started. When you create a breakout room, there are some other options. So if you click options, you can have it move all the participants automatically. You can allow them to return back at any time if you want. So if you're working on a project and they only need a few minutes, but some groups may take longer than others, you can send them out, and then they can come back when they're ready. You can set up an automatic close time. So if you want them to work for 30 minutes, you can set it up. They can go in, they can do their 30 minutes, and then when that 30 minutes is up, it'll close that meeting room and they can come back. You can also set up a countdown for when the room closes. When you're finished with your meeting, you can click end, and you can either leave the meeting. So if you want to keep the meeting open so others can continue using it, you can do that. But if you're teaching your class, you probably don't want to leave them sitting in your meeting. So you're going to click end meeting for all. On the student side, they don't have that option to end the meeting because it's not their meeting. But if they need to, they can click leave meeting, and then they can jump out. So if they need to leave the meeting for some reason, they can do that on their own. So I'm going to end this meeting for all. You'll see it took me out, and on this side, the student now sees that the meeting has ended, and it bumps them out automatically. And they can't rejoin that meeting because I have it set up so that they can't join before the host. So those are the basics of using Zoom. If you have questions or if you want to share any ideas, you can email me, gbaker@learncharter.org, and I will do my best to help you out. Until next time, I've been Greg Baker from Learn 9 Waukegan. Have a great school year and have fun Zooming.